Okay, now moving on to Bahrain. Bahrain is making wonderful strides in the women's rights movement. It was the first Gulf country to launch a special petition for men to pledge to end domestic violence. Did any of you participate in the last Women's Day celebrations here? It was really good. It was all about raising awareness about domestic violence. Also in 2006, Hayya bint Rashid Al Khalifa was appointed president of the UN General Assembly. She is the third woman ever to hold this position and the first Arab woman. So that's amazing on an international stage. It's excellent. Latifa Al-Gaoud in 2006 was the first female candidate in the GCC to be elected in the legislature.
Excuse me, she wasn't elected actually.
She was the only one running.
She had no opposition. Yeah.
The two people withdrew 2 months before, but she still is serving, which is more than you can say for other countries.
Yeah.
So it's a good sign. It's a good thing.
But I mean, I'm just trying to point out the fact that there was sort of a lot of there are parts of society which didn't like the fact that certain women were running.
Of course, there's parts of society in America that feel that way too.
Yeah, but no, we have a very we have a movement. I mean, maybe widespread that discouraged that sort of thing from both sides because. As you know, our society is divided along sectarian lines, and both sects would discourage that, or maybe even consciously blocked that sort of thing. So,
very good point. Very good point. It's true. As I mentioned in the beginning, women are oppressed for different reasons around the world, and a lot of the reasons that we are oppressed for is not because, of course, isn't based on fact. It's because people want to control and have power. So that makes sense why both sides would want to keep women out, because it's just another threat to their power. So very good point, thank you. And there's a woman in Bahrain, a Bahraini woman named Ghada Jamshir. She is like a rock star of feminism around the world. She's incredibly well respected and famous. Time magazine in 2006, I believe, named her a hero of freedom in the Arab world. And I think the same year, Forbes magazine named her one of the most powerful, top 10 most powerful women in the Arab world. She is struggling to change the jurisdiction of family law to civil court and protect the rights of women during divorce and family law proceedings. Unfortunately, as you probably all know, she's not very popular here in Bahrain, and she's faced a lot of trouble with the government. But around the rest of the world, she is very well respected. Before we move on to the end, I just want to point out that this past Women's Day in Bahrain was focused on domestic violence. Because unfortunately, despite all the strides being made in Bahrain to become a more equal society for men and women, there's a rampant epidemic of domestic violence here. The BDF hospital, out of all the incidents of violence that are brought to them, 40% are domestic violence incidents. 40%. 91% of Bahraini women who file for divorce report being physically or emotionally abused by their husband. A survey was conducted, and 2,165 women out of 2,391 surveyed report having been abused by their husband after bearing children. This is a very, very high number. And I know here there is that same culture of shame and silence, that women don't feel comfortable. You know, just like we do in the States, we don't want to bring it up because, I mean, maybe it's our fault. Did we do something? Well, no, we never do something, ever. It's never, ever the woman's fault. It's always the man's fault. Something else that's really upsetting in Bahrain is that Article 353 of the Bahrain Penal Code states that if a man rapes a woman, he will not be punished as long as he marries the woman. It's like rewarding a rapist. Also in Bahrain, there's no law saying that it's illegal for a man to rape his wife. Because a lot of times, you know, in the US and Europe, they definitely feel this way in a lot of places, that when you're married, you're your husband's property. You're not yourself anymore, and you can't rape your property. So there's no law saying that a man can't rape his wife. And Article 353 rewards rapists for their crime by encouraging them to marry their victims. In Bahrain, there are many NGOs, although it's hard for them to act sometimes, and charities dedicated to helping the women of Bahrain, such as the WRAW Women's Society and the Child and Mother Welfare Society. However, these groups don't organize as women's rights organizations. They operate as charities. You see the difference? They're not promoting women's rights. They're helping the women that have been abused by lack of rights. But they're doing, they're taking on a massive challenge and doing an amazing job. So this brings us to the end of my presentation. And what I want to leave you guys with is the question, what can I do? But I want to say that it's not what can I do, it's what can't I do? You know, we are women and we're incredibly powerful. We can do absolutely anything. There's women changing the world every day, all around the world, and we can do that too. And so now I'd like to answer your questions, but also talk about what you think we can do together to help the women of the world. Okay? Thank you guys for listening. Ask questions, guys. Come on. Please. Yes.
What do you make of the relationship between the rise of political Islam in the Middle East and in Bahrain in particular, but not necessarily